Welcome to the Help or Be Brave podcast show, where we have great ideas on how you can help save lives. I'm Amy Ford.
And I'm Jessica Russo.
And today we're going to talk to a friend named Jason Jones, who is a very passionate, dynamic speaker. And I've heard his whole story. It was like an hour when this is going to be a shortened version of it today, but it's very hard, but inspiring and so amazing. And it's amazing to see how he took this passion that just burned inside of him and started a company and started a movement through film and showing pro-life movies. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. Okay, Jason, thank you so much for being on today.
It's a privilege to be on.
Yeah, so I heard you talk at Heroic Media a couple years ago, pre-COVID, and I cried. I called our mutual friend Destiny immediately, and I was like, "He's amazing! Oh my gosh!" Like I was so pumped after you shared.
Destiny is not my friend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Y'all are secret friends. But yeah. She was like, "Yes, I know. He really is." She's like, we can fight sometimes, but we love each other. So
aimed her to say that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so why don't you share your why? Like, why are you so passionate about life?
You know, it's something maybe for the first 12 years I was in the pro-life movement, I didn't share with anyone. In fact, I just returned from Hawaii where I was at a friend's funeral, and it was a friend that I worked together with in college after I'd gotten out of the Army. We were waiters together in Waikiki. And so many of my old coworkers over the years discovered why, when I was a college student, I was so passionate about abortion, and it was perplexing to people. I think generally when you meet somebody, whether they're really passionately pro-life or they're really passionate in the other direction, I think we share something in common, and that was an abortion. And so for me, when I was in high school, my high school girlfriend brought her back to my house on a Saturday morning to tell me she was pregnant. And so we decided, abortion wasn't something we had even thought about. It wasn't something I had even really known about. And so we decided on my birthday I would join the Army. So the day I turned 17, I went down to the recruiter's office, joined the Army. A couple of months later, 8 weeks later or so, I was off to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training. And then while I was away at basic training, while she was in the early stages of the third trimester, her father forced her to his friend, who was a doctor, and my high school girlfriend was, she had a forced third trimester abortion.
Oh my gosh.
She called me on a Sunday morning when I was at Fort Benning, and so I found out abortion was legal. I found out denying legal protection to the most vulnerable members of our family, the child in the womb, was legal when I found out my child was destroyed by an abortion. And the abortionist told her after the procedure, "Oh, by the way, you had a little girl. So we know that our baby was a girl." For me, I never went to church a day growing up. I was a militant atheist. Didn't know much about religion or politics. But it was at that moment that my passion to defend the child in the womb was birthed. I didn't think anyone knew that this was going on. I thought all I had to do was tell people that, it's legal to kill a child in the womb. And people would go, "What? That's crazy. And that should be illegal." And I thought it'd be quite simple. Of course, it didn't take me long to realize that I had been ambushed and thrust into the biggest cultural battle in America since slavery. But that's how it began for me.
Wow.
Whoa.
So that was super early on. You were in your teens, and then it seems like I remember you talking about how didn't you go like door to door talking to people about this?
In fact, I'm in Texas now, but I lived in Hawaii for 31 years. We just moved to Texas a couple of months ago, but I was back in Hawaii for this funeral, but we were screening my new film, Divided Hearts of America, in different parts of the island, and there were people there at one of the screenings who remembered me knocking on their door in 1989. And I would go around neighborhoods knocking on doors, telling people that abortion was legal. I just didn't think people knew. So in the beginning, I would knock on their door and I'd say, "Hi, do you know that it's legal to kill a child in the womb? Don't you think it should be illegal?" And that was my sophisticated pitch. I did not know there was a pro-life movement I didn't even really know the expression pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
This was before 24-hour cable news, before the internet. And all I wanted to know about abortion. So I had a book called Roe v. Wade in Focus, published by the Alan Guttmacher Institute. And so my 3 books that were my guides to ending abortion, where I had this book published by the Guttmacher Institute, which of course is the research arm of the abortion industry. Didn't know that at the time. I had Machiavelli's The Prince and Plato's Republic, and I had laminated them, and I put them in my rucksack as I was in the infantry, and I deploy or go on training exercises, and then I would study these 3 books. And on my free time, I would go door to door. But somebody from Hawaii Right to Life, I'd give my number out as I knocked on doors to the desk, what was called the CQ desk in my barracks. And I'd give numbers to people, give the number and say, if you want to help me knock on doors, call. And one day I got a call from somebody from Hawaii Right to Life who was mad at me because they thought I was saying I worked for them. I didn't even know we had a group. So I was so excited to find out there was an organization of other people committed to this. And then that's really where it began for me, getting to know the people at Hawaii Right to Life, going down there and taking pamphlets and books and from their library. And that's where my journey really began.
And so what got you into the film industry?
Well, my captain heard I was knocking on doors harassing civilians about abortion, and he asked me if I had a plan. And he said, if you have a goal, you need a plan, and you start with your goal and you work your way backwards. So I made a 40-year plan to end abortion as a young private. And really, I just wanted to educate and inform people. So I thought one day I'd write books and I'd make movies and I'd run political campaigns, but it began knocking on doors. So I had very early on known I wanted to make movies, but for me, it would be just documentaries. So in 2000, I made my first documentary. It was called The Gates of Hell. And it was really more about youth culture than abortion specifically. And I tripped into the film business really backwards when I met Eduardo Verastegui and his partners, Leo Severino and Alejandro Monteverdi. They had this film, Bella. I came on as an executive producer for Bella. And when I saw the impact that film made, through my nonprofit HERO, the Human Rights Education and Relief Organization, we started a whole program called Movie to Movement. Most people don't know that Movie to Movement is a program of a broader organization. They think that is the organization because, of course, movies and the celebrities that we partner with get a lot of publicity and a lot of attention. But Movie to Movement is really just one program out of several programs at HERO.
Yeah, I loved Bella. I watched it a long time ago. It was so good. In fact, we used to have someone that worked here who that was like her favorite movie of all time, and she was very obsessed with Eduardo. And she's single.
Slightly.
Slightly. That's not unusual to hear.
Oh man!
One time at the March for Life, I was with Eduardo, and he was stalling, and there was a huge group of young women. This was right when Bella first came out. There was this Catholic school. And I said, hey, Eduardo Verastegui is going to come down. And when he does, cheering, get really excited and ask for a photo. And when he says yes, hand him the camera and then all stand around me. And that's what we did.
That's awesome.
And then Eduardo fell to his knees, laughing so hard he was crying.
Oh,
but yeah, he's
gosh.
a great guy. So we've done a lot of work together, not just on abortion, but working with the homeless. He's come with me to Sudan, to Darfur in the midst of the war. He's helping with our projects in Iraq. He's a very good man, very brave man. And, of course, people know him through film and music, but he does so much.
Yeah. So tell us about this latest movie that you just, I think you said that you guys just watched it in Hawaii. I know I've seen some advertised and previews from Yvonne, but I haven't watched the whole thing yet, and I'm excited to do that. But what was the heart behind making that film, and where can people watch it?
Well, you can download it anywhere you download movies. So YouTube, Amazon, Redbox, wherever you watch movies, you can get Divided Hearts of America for digital download. And we have some big news coming soon from maybe a big new television broadcast of our film that millions of people will then have a chance to see our film. But Divided Hearts of America was birthed when Governor Cuomo lit Freedom Tower up pink 2 years ago in celebration of infanticide. I had been brought on to assist two producers on a film series on Christians, on professional athletes and their Christian faith, and it was called The Profiles. And part of that project was Benjamin Watson. So the two producers and I, Betsy Kenny Reisowitz and Chad Bonham, after Cuomo lit Freedom Tower up pink, I really couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. I was so depressed. I'm not prone to be depressed or get down, but it was so startling to me that the very space above the planet Earth, where two planes flew into the World Trade Center towers and a new building was erected, that very space was lit pink in celebration of infanticide, really rocked me. And I found out it rocked a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was just in bed for a couple of days. And then Betsy called me and she said, we need to fight back. And so Betsy, Chad, and I approached Benjamin Watson, and we wanted to do a film that got to the root of the abortion debate in America and sort of use the film to exemplify how abortion is at the heart of the divisions we're seeing in our country today. We didn't think Benjamin would say yes. He's a pro athlete. Movies are very hard to do. And also there's a lot of controversy, that negative, heat that comes along with it, that probably wouldn't be prudent for a man like Benjamin Watson to make a film like this. So we asked him. I was certain he'd say no. And he said that our call was an answer to prayer that morning, and that he wanted to be a part of it. The average film takes 7 years from script to screen, but we wanted to have the film out before the election, and we raced to get it made. And sure enough, COVID comes along, and we weren't going to let that stop us. So we partnered with Salem Communications, and we were out on pay-per-view with about a little over $500,000 in radio and other ad spends to try to promote the film and its message on pay-per-view. And then in January, it came out on other digital platforms. But yeah, what the film does is Benjamin does an honest, beautiful exploration of the causes of division in America. And what he discovers is that our source of unity is the Declaration principle, that we are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, and that our divisions as a people, that's the source of our unity, right? Not our ethnicity, not our religion, not our culture, our heritage. The source of our unity as a nation is our shared belief in the inalienable dignity of the human person. I said, we're the only country founded on an anthropology and the history of the world. But slavery was a weed that was growing before our founders even planted the weeds, that beautiful weeds of our Declaration principle. And that brutally denied our founding principle. And then after slavery, we had segregation, which was a brutal denial of our founding principle. And then with Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court looked into the very amendment that made slave citizens to say they found in that amendment a right to abortion, which is really haunting and unbelievable.
Yeah.
So those three brutal denials, slavery, segregation, and abortion, are the causes of all our disunity. And if we want to survive as a republic, we want to be free and prosperous, to have our children live in peace and in ordered society, free and ordered society, then we have to ascend to the truth of our founding principle. And that can only happen with full legal protection for the child in the womb from the moment of biological beginning. Just like slavery almost destroyed our republic and segregation ripped our republic apart, abortion, the weight of abortion, this republic will collapse. And, that might have seemed outrageous 24 months ago to say, but you'd have to have your head in the sand not to realize that our republic is cracking at the seams.
Are you looking for a way to get involved in the pro-life and pro-love movement? We have the perfect place for you and would love to invite you to join the Embrace Grace Revival Alliance. Come be a part of this group of passionate monthly donors, joining us on the exciting mission to help women with unplanned pregnancies be brave in their choice for life. You have the opportunity to play a vital part in providing single and pregnant women with spiritual, emotional, and physical support, saving lives of mamas and their babies, both physically and eternally. Visit www.embracegrace.com/donate to learn more.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that so many people that I talk to, that moment when Cuomo was signing and they lit up the buildings pink and the smug grin, that he had, it's amazing to me that that really did set off something big. And I know for our organization, I did have a Focus on the Family episode airing around the same time, but between those two things, that people would just call and say, I have to do something. I can't look away anymore. And just the shock and horror, even though New York wasn't the first state to do full-term abortions.
They were the first ones to publicly celebrate.
Yeah. And people were like, I have to do something. It got so busy here that we ended up having to, for a while, do auto dialers to call people back because it was so overwhelming, the amount of people that wanted to get involved in the movement. And I think a lot of people, like, same as you, and I say the same thing. I grew up in church my entire life. You didn't, and we both didn't know that there was a pro-life movement.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea that there was a pro-life movement, and it wasn't until I got asked to speak at a CareNet conference, never heard of CareNet, and just was totally blown away by how many vendors and organizations that were boots on the ground helping people. And I just wish that everyone that's listening, and hope that everyone that's listening, that, whatever, if you were around or paid attention to when Cuomo signed that bill, and that, the fire that it ignited, that we just keep that in our hearts of that we have to do something, and to really dig into what are the organizations or people that are making a difference, and how can people get involved, and what are, whatever strength, passion, gift. And I love, with you, Jason, you're amazing at film, and you're amazing at telling stories, and you've found different ways to do that by telling your own story or telling other stories through film. And then it sounds like you're really great at marketing and promoting and getting the word out about it as well. So you found something to make a difference at a mass scale. And I'm praying that this movie really inspires people to want to get involved and want to do something and not stand for this anymore.
Yeah, it's been great to see that we've had people across the political spectrum say that this movie's inspired them to start wanting to speak up for life. And it's also reached out to a lot of people who were pro-abortion who now say they're pro-life. And that was really our goal. The other thing we did is we interviewed people. We interviewed abortionists who are pro-life now, an abortionist, a woman who works in an abortion clinic who still supports legal abortion. But what we did is we really wanted to honor them. You notice a lot of documentaries, they'll use good lighting for the people who they agree with, and bad lighting and ominous music and quirky camera angles for the people they disagree with.
That's something only you would notice. I would never have noticed that. That's interesting.
Well, you're not supposed to notice, but what it does is
subtle.
It forms your opinion of the person, right? Like, you don't trust them. Oh, there's something I don't like about this person. Well, it's the camera angle, it's the lighting, it's the music. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we allowed everyone to be as we wanted the camera, the lighting, the music. We wanted them to articulate their position the best. We didn't want to create strawmen and knock them down. We wanted to allow the other side to share their opinion clearly and as persuasively as possible, because we were doing that for, of course, where we're coming from, and that we think that would be the only thing that's fair. And also that would be the only thing that could, I think, lead to legitimately changed minds and hearts. And that's what we want to do, because, I started telling my story after 10 years in the pro-life movement. In those days, we didn't tell our stories. And the only reason I shared my story was because an 8th grade girl began to cry. Tears coming down her eyes, and her hand went around her womb, and she leant forward. A tear was coming down her eyes. And I knew immediately what that body language was conveying. This young 15-year-old girl had already had an abortion in 8th grade. So for the first time outside of my closest friends in public, I shared my story because I didn't want her to feel judged. But then I noticed that, and I would give that old school pro-life speech in the 90s, this is an egg, this is a sperm, the sperm fertilizes the egg. And, we would do these speeches and nobody paid attention, right? But when I told my story, all the kids began to pay attention.
Yeah.
Then I began reluctantly for years and years. It was really, and even still, it's very uncomfortable sharing the story. And it's not pleasant, if you lost your child in a drinking and driving accident and you volunteer for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the worst thing in the world is to tell that story all the time, but you tell that story out of love for other people and to save other lives. And that's how I feel. But as we see in our movie Divided Hearts of America, people have stories, horrible experiences that lead them to be strong advocates for the quote unquote right to abortion. And we don't want to deny their experiences, right? The hardships and things that they went through. So sometimes our stories can be persuasive, even if they don't direct us towards the truth. By God's grace, the experience that I had directed me to the truth. And I don't think it was that my high school girlfriend, had the abortion. That's what made me so passionately pro-life. She called me and she just cried for 2 hours. It was like her soul was crying. That's what conveyed the truth of abortion to me. If she would have called me and said, you know what, we're young, we don't know what we're doing, it's my body, my choice, and it's what they used to say in the old days, it's a grain of sand and a teaspoon of blood, it's not a big deal, and I went and had this taken care of. Or I might be pro-choice today, or imagine if my high school girlfriend was sexually abused by her stepfather, and she came to me crying that she was pregnant, and I took her to Planned Parenthood. I would see Planned Parenthood as maybe a savior, and I'd be advocating for them. So stories can be very powerful. It doesn't mean, and those experiences are real, but it doesn't mean it leads us to the truth. Yeah. Now, we know the truth, that every human being deserves protection from violence, and that abortion is devastating to women. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to use stories. In Divided Hearts of America, we let all the stories be heard. So that, but we hope that in hearing all of these stories, and everyone's communicating clearly and persuasively, we can still arrive at the truth that every human being has an inviolable dignity and is the most beautiful thing in the cosmos, created thing in the cosmos, and they deserve protection from violence.
So true.
Yes.
Okay, Divided Hearts of America. Tell everyone again, how can people watch this movie?
Redbox, Amazon. If you go to movie2movement.com, you can click through there to go see it at different locations. But wherever you watch your films for digital download, you will find Divided Hearts of America there.
Okay, Jason, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so powerful, and I know people will be moved and definitely want to hopefully watch the movie and then find a place to get involved in the movement. And so we're just so thankful to be serving in this movement with you, and I know we're stronger together. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you. The best place to start is your local pregnancy center.
So
Every
true.
community has a pro-life pregnancy center. If you don't know where to go, that's the very best place to start.
So true. All right, Jason, thank you so much for being on today.
That guy can tell some stories. I can just imagine sitting around for hours listening to the stories. But my favorite part of what he shared is that he was stirred to do something and he didn't even know there was anybody else out there doing anything about it. And he just started knocking on doors.
Yeah, that was all he knew to do.
That takes guts.
Right.
And giving his phone number. Like, he did something with what he had in his hands. And sometimes it's the tiniest of seeds. But look at what all that has led to in his life. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then he didn't realize that the Hawaii, what was it, Alliance?
Right to Life.
Right to Life. Like, he didn't know that was actual group. He just put stickers on stuff. And then someone called and complained about him. And he's like, wait, there's a group? I'm in. And then that's how he kind of got more involved in the pro-life movement. It's so awesome. Like, God just wants us to follow our passion and follow the breadcrumbs to where he's leading. And, so many of these shows that we interview people, it kind of it falls in their lap. Like, they follow their heartbreak and they follow that burning passion inside of them to do something.
Somebody has to do something.
Yeah. And then God just starts opening doors and they end up, being the directors of organizations or starting organizations or, there's so many different stories, but I have definitely seen a theme now that we're on season 4 of so many people of how they got involved in the pro-life movement.
And how exciting that, when Cuomo signed that bill into effect in New York and lit up New York pink, how many stories have we heard about people just were like, I can't do nothing anymore. I have to do something. And how God really will take anything and use it for his good. And how many lives are going to be changed because of the just blatant celebration of taking lives.
I know. And I can go backwards with a lot of different people that I know in my circles and in my friends that was the moment where something changed.
Enough is enough.
Right. And we can't just be watching this happen. We have to do something.
Yeah.
So good. And I'm so glad people are getting more involved more and more every day. And I hope this podcast show is helping all of our listeners know how to get involved, and also just to know what resources that are out there. Sometimes, like for this show that we just filmed, it could be that you have a friend that is on the fence of what they believe about life. Watching Divided Hearts of America is a great film because it shows both sides, and that person can make a decision for themselves. But the truth speaks for itself, and they wanted the truth to be known. And so it's a great icebreaker to talk about it. Maybe you can watch it with your friends, and then, sit around and have like a group afterwards and talk through everything that you learned. That's one way, to get involved, and also to sew into Movie to Movement and give and donate and help them be able to make more pro-life films, because these films, they leave a mark on our hearts and they help us remember it better, not just, and also people's stories. And Jason's story is powerful, amazing. So thank you so much for watching today and listening. We hope that you enjoyed it. Go to helperbebrave.com for more ideas on how you can get involved in the movement. And also make sure to share this episode with your friends. Tell everyone about Embrace Grace. You can also start a group at your church for single and pregnant young women. You can go to embracegrace.com for that as well. And we also now have Embrace Legacy for Dads if you want to start a support group for dads. Lots of information there. Just go check everything out. Embracegrace.com, helperbebrave.com. And we would love to help you just get involved and get more involved in the movement. So thank you so much for watching.